everybody. In this session, we are going to discuss the topic with which you are familiar right from your childhood, and now as a teacher you are using it frequently. In your early school days, you were being evaluated, and now as teachers you are evaluating your students. So, the topic of today is evaluation and setting question papers. In this session, we will be discussing evaluation, just the meaning of it, there are different types of evaluation, but we among them will be discussing only formative and summative evaluation. Then we will be going to the interpretation of test scores. Another important aspect which we will be discussing, which is very much required, which the teacher must have the knowledge, is reliability and validity. Just we will discuss the meaning of these, and lastly setting valid and reliable question papers. So, these 5 things we will be discussing in this session. Let me first of all come to the meaning of evaluation. There are different terms which are being used by the teachers. Test. Now, question is test evaluation? No, test is not evaluation. It is just sample of questions in a given paper. So, it is just a device or a procedure for measuring sample of individual's performance only. The another related term which people generally confuse is measurement. Measurement, again, it is a quantitative type of thing. Say you give the score 50 out of 100. So, this quantitative term is measurement. So, we can say measurement is just the process of obtaining numerical description of the degree to which an individual possesses a particular characteristic. And assessment is another term. It is systematic procedure for collecting information that can be used to make inferences about characteristics of people. Now, you see, it is just collection of the information about the performance, but evaluation goes beyond it. It includes how good it is. Say, now you see just see the definition of evaluation. Systematic process of collecting. It is not only collecting information, analyzing it and then interpreting that information to take certain decisions also, say to determine how far the students have achieved the objectives. Evaluation tells you how good or how bad is the situation. So, this includes value judgment. Point is, evaluation is much more comprehensive than the other terms, test and measurement and everything. But many educationists and professionals, they use teaching, measurement, assessment, such kind of terms interchangeably. However, among them, assessment is the term which has become more preferred term. Now, this was about just the meaning of evaluation and the other related terms. Now, I come to the second thing, that is the formative and summative evaluation. Formative evaluation is to monitor learning progress during instruction. Because it takes place during instruction, the necessary changes, the necessary problems which the students are facing, they can be checked. The purpose of such type of evaluation is to provide continuous feedback to learner and teacher both. In formative testing, you can use informal tests, fortnightly tests, weekly tests, like that. Now, when a teacher say after completing a small portion of the subject matter and conducts a fortnightly test, learner student gets the feedback whether he is able to learn, what are his weaknesses, and same type of message goes to the teacher also. If say after covering a small portion, teacher finds that most of the students are not able to grasp the things, teacher can change his way of teaching or give them some small instructions, some small assignments to cover up, to make them understand the things which they have not understood. Whereas summative evaluation, that takes place at the end of the instruction, maybe 50%, 80% or 100%. Final examination, end term examinations are the example of it. The purpose for summative evaluation is to grade students, certify students, so that their mastery of intended learning outcomes is taken care. Next thing which I referred earlier I will be discussing interpretation of test scores. For this matter I give you two situations. Just see, Anil scored better than 80% of his peers in applied physics subject in his class. Second situation is, Ravi scored 75% marks in a test on Kirchhoff's law and its applications. Are these two situations same? You see, in the first instance when we say 80%, an important thing is 80% of peers in his class, and subject matter is the applied physics total subject. If you look at to the Ravi's case, he has scored 75% marks. There is no comparison with any other individual. Another important difference between the two situations is, in the first case whole subject is taken, whereas in the second case just the subtopic Kirchhoff's law and its applications only. So, in the first case comparisons are there, in the second case there is no comparison, it talks of the absolute performance of the individual. In the literature these things are referred as, where the comparisons are there, they are referred as norm-referenced interpretations. This describes learner performance in terms of a relative position held in some known group. Now, this group can be Anil's situation. In Anil's situation, it was the class only, but it can be college level, it can be district level, state level, national level, any level can be there. Point is, some comparison group has to be there. The other Ravi's performance, that describes the criterion reference performance. In this is in terms of clearly defined and delimited domain of learning tasks. We said Kirchhoff's law and its applications. So, the subject matter is not total, as was in the Anil case we said whole of the syllabus. So, here you see the learning tasks are restricted. Another topic which I am going to discuss is the reliability and validity, which is very important when we go for sitting question papers. Now, you see, in your labs and workshops, you will like to have the equipment, instruments which gives you reliable and valid results. Now, after what does this mean? Reliability refers to consistency of evaluation results. There is different types of reliabilities. Now, as we said, consistency. There can be one situation, rater, let me say here marking variability also. Sorry. You see, if same answer sheet is evaluated by two different evaluators, do they give the same marks? Generally not. You see, when re-evaluation is carried out, the scores vary, and number of studies have shown that the second evaluation, even for the descriptive papers, mathematical papers, the variability is quite large. And it is not only restricted to the inter-rater, it may happen in the intra-rater. There are intra-rater variabilities are also there. Say the same evaluator, when evaluates the answer sheets, his criteria changes in each sitting. So, there are instances of marking variability, there is not perfect type of consistency in marking. Another aspect which I said, the validity. Now, validity refers to appropriateness of the interpretations made from the test scores with regard to particular use of evaluation results. Say, as in the case of norm reference testing, I want to compare the performance of the two students. One student, say, has learnt 70% of the subject matter thoroughly. Another student learns 100% of the subject matter thoroughly. When I give the test, both of them score equal. Now, how will I interpret this score? It means both are at the same level? No, they were not at the same level. Now, these things might have come. Some lacunas in your testing, maybe the common practice giving liberal external choice, if not liberal, to some extent giving the liberal external choice. So, the person, the student who has learnt partially, he has scored equal as the student who has learned 100%. So, our conclusions, our interpretations from that type of tests will not be appropriate, will not be accurate. So, these aspects are to be taken care of when we go for setting of question papers. I won't say that it's only the designing stage. I won't say that they will, but just by following these steps, you will get exactly valid and reliable results. The reason is there might be some lacunas in the administration. Say if mass copying is there or some individual help is given to the student, then even the paper designed through following through these steps may not give you the valid results. So, let us just see what are the steps in setting valid and reliable question papers. Your tests must be valid and reliable. Generally, when I ask teachers what they take care while setting question paper, their answer is we will cover the whole content. They say that we take care of the poor students. So, there are some very simple questions, we include some simple questions, then we include in the test paper some average difficulty type of questions and some questions for the brighter students also. So, they try to give the proper mix of these type of questions, but when I ask them how you ensure that this type of representation is there, so they are not able to convince these things. Here we are just going to ensure content validity. There are other types of like reliability, there are other types of validity also, but I am not going to refer to that. Our focus is only on the content validity, and let me come to the meaning. Content validity is ensured if whole of the content is covered and different abilities of students, they are they are covered in the paper. Now, question here is, can we really cover the whole content in 3 hours test? Definitely not. So, content validity says that your test paper should represent the whole content, and that too in terms of the whole subject matter and also the abilities. We will further clear the meaning of abilities also. So, we are to give weightage to the sample of topics and objectives. Now, what should be the basis for giving this weightages in the test papers? I come to the abilities first. I will take some time to just make make clear this background. Bloom in 1956, he gave a taxonomy of objectives. First of all, we just make clear the meaning of what we mean by taxonomies and what we mean by domain. Taxonomy is the classifies information into hierarchy of levels. So, he classified them into 3 categories. Domain means simply category. He gave 3 categories, which we'll come to that just now. Domain taxonomies, they reveal that what educators want their students to accomplish. Now, say in a technical institution, there are certain theory subjects, there are certain practical subjects. So, where you want your students to reach, these domain focus on that. So, he classified his taxonomy into 3 domains, 3 categories: cognitive, affective and psychomotor. First of all, cognitive domain. Cognition as well as knowledge, this is related to the thinking, mental operations at all level. You will see, if you look into your subjects in the technical courses, there are theory subjects. So, they are related with they are covered in the cognitive domain. Then you have affective domain. Affective domain means feelings, attitudes, values at various levels. In most of the syllabus, in most of the contents, we see that the focus is on cognitive and psychomotor. Affective domain is not much touched, whereas it is a very important area. Last is the psychomotor domain. This involves locomotor skills at different levels. The activities, the experiments in the laboratories, workshops, field work like that, drawing. So, this portion of practical work is will come under the psychomotor domain, but our focus for theory subjects is the cognitive domain only. So, I will just explain briefly only what is cognitive domain, what comes under that. Right in 1956, Bloom classified further cognitive domain into 6 levels. Knowledge level is the lowest level. It is just recalling of the simple things. Then comes the comprehension, that is the student understands. Then student starts applying, analyzing, synthesis and finally evaluation. This was revised in 2001 and some names were changed because they later on found that knowledge seems to be more restricted. Comprehension, instead understanding is now being used. Instead of synthesis, where we talk of the designing something new, they change its name into creating something new. So, because the student is creating something. So, just the meaning of these terms we will have in nutshell. Cognitive domain, the lowest level is the remembering, earlier card knowledge. Here just student recalls the information. Say, I take very simple example, I may go to the Kirchhoff's law only. If I say state Kirchhoff's law, can I be sure that student understands it also? Definitely not. So, the words used in this at this level, they are name, state, define, list. All of this focus on not on understanding, but just remembering, recalling type of thing. Next level is understanding, earlier named as comprehension. So, understanding interpretation, say interpretations, making comparisons, this will require more than just remembering the things. So, the words used are explain, identify, describe, compare. Now, these verbs are used to describe the activity learnt. When we say learnt, it is coming in terms of objectives, and same types of words are also used for measuring, for evaluating students also. So, for setting question papers, we will see that such type of words, if they are used, they convey better, they evaluate better than the vague type of words. The another higher levels are applying. Now, once the student knows the things, understands the things, he can apply all this knowledge, concepts, there may be principles, theories in new situations. Remember, it is new situations. So, the verbs used here will be apply, illustrate, interpret, and like that. Numerical problems will also come here only. Next higher level is analysis. Here information, breaking information into parts and then seeing the total relationships, how they are related with each other. Say, if I remove one component of the machine, how it is going to affect? If they say quality or the material of some component is changed, how it is going to affect? So, contrasting, comparing, relating, examining, these type of words come under this. Next higher level is evaluating. So, judging worth of an idea, theory, information or opinion. For this judge, assess, evaluate, predict, estimate, such type of verbs are used. Final is the creation, synthesis. Some people have even say that evaluation should come later and synthesis should come. There is controversies, but we won't go into those controversies. There are difference of opinion among educationists. Creation means generating new ideas, putting components together to form new things. Say, designing anything, any new type of machine, any new type of design for a building, any new software. So, such type of things come under at this highest level, and the words used as related to this are compose, design, construct, create, prepare, like that. So, this was about the objectives, and I am going to use these things in the table of specifications, which is the first step, I would say, under setting valid and reliable question papers. So, let us just see the meaning, what this table of specification is. This tells you how much weightage or importance is to be given to different topics and for each ability level. ability level is nothing but your remembering, understanding, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. So, how much weightage under each chapter should be given to these levels? I showed you just one example of this. Here is your table of specification for one of the subjects. You see, I have not written the full forms: remembering, understanding, application, and I have written higher than application. Now, this higher than application includes analysis, creation and evaluation. And there are 8 topics in this subject. The marks under each in each row against each topic are given. Say if I take this third chapter, magnetic field, this says out of these 50 marks, 1 mark will be for remembering level. Maybe you say list anything, maybe you say name this thing. 2 marks are given to the understanding. You may say derive, you may say compare, like that. 1 mark for the application, and total 4 marks are given to this chapter. Let me take another, say the transformer. 2 marks for remembering, 4 marks for understanding, 4 marks for applying the learned concepts in new situations, and 2 marks maybe for justifying anything, maybe for analyzing anything, maybe for designing anything. So, the total marks for this are 12. You see, for remembering we have given 14 marks out of 50, that is 28% weightage goes to the remembering level. Now, when the teacher said that we take care that even the poorest students, low ability students, they also pass. If I see the same thing logically, we, as per our syllabus, these 28% marks are taking care of that aspect. Understanding, they said we want some average difficulty questions. You see, for total of understanding 19, 38%, it can vary, but around that marks are given. So, the student who has learned, remembered lowest information in a particular subject, or has understood the concept, can take more than 50% marks for that subject. Then we have come to the application, higher application 4. Now, these weightages of course will differ from subject to subject. These weightages which I am showing in this, they are not coming from air. The people who are teaching these subjects or even the curriculum designers can decide at their level itself how much weightage should go to the different topics and how much should go to the different abilities. If that cannot be fixed, at least range of such abilities, range of percentage for different abilities can be decided right at the designing of the curriculum. So, let us see how we go for construction of table of specifications. Say I have a paper on software engineering. Here I write chapters. Under this, for basic concepts hours spent in teaching are say 10 software development life cycle hours are 15. Software, this is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, software requirement specifications, (25 hours), system design, it's 25 hours, coding 10 hours, and testing here there are 15 hours. Now, if I go by, they are hypothetical. If as per the weightage, the time taken for teaching these subjects, what will be the percentage weightage to each of them? Say that remains the same. Now, we can retain the same weightage or we can change it also. So, for constructing this table, we first of all list the topics to be tested and amount of time spent in teaching each topic. So, allocate marks for each topic as a percentage, that we have done right now, time required to teach each topic. Point is whether we retain this or we modify it. At some instances, some places we have to modify it also. Say we say basic concepts, the weightage in the examinations may not be the same as was the time given for teaching. So, say if some of the concepts, say I take a software development life cycle, say if it is more required for learning later part of the subject matter, or say anything is more required in the next semester, then accordingly we change the weightage of that. It may happen. Another thing with which give message for changing is how important that topic is to students' later jobs when he actually goes at the workplace. If some of the topics you feel, say you feel that coding is more important, you feel that testing is more important, then the weightage which is coming from as per the instructional time, that can be modified. But that does not mean that you make it 0, because once you have taught it, that has to be evaluated also. That has to be represented in the test paper also. So, you may modify this weightage, and I would say the teacher, the examiner, the evaluator is the judge to see how much weightage should go for each of the ability levels which we have just talked, that is remembering. Once you modify it, if you feel there is need to modify, then you change this, and after modifying it, see how much content is there just for the remembering level, how much is for the understanding level, how much for the application level, and how much for higher than application level, that is analysis, evaluation and creation. So, use sublet for each of this, what should come here like that. Now, if we follow this type of blueprint for setting question papers, we will get valid results from that test paper. Next step in this is draft items and questions. Now, if questions are not rightly written, again you will not get the valid results. I give you some instances for that also. So, first of all, critically studied objectives before developing your items or questions. Draft your questions keeping in view the guidelines for writing questions. These two aspects are very important. So, there are some guidelines for essay questions. You see, formulate questions that call for behavior specified in the learning outcome. Say you want to test students' application ability. If the question is describe the applications of computer in daily life, then this applications, writing these applications is not evaluating application level of the student. So, take care, if say you say there is so much in the table of specification, you give the weightage to higher application under say analysis or creation, you give the weightage of 4% or 6%, then that weightage must be reflected in the test paper also. So, take care what you have mentioned in the blueprint, what is coming in the blueprint, that should come in the paper also. Another aspect is phrase questions so that student's task is clearly indicated. At times for this you have to delimit the area covered by the question. Use words that themselves give direction also. At times there are questions you say write advantages, write characteristics of this, and you give 2 marks, 3 marks like that. And if we ask how many characteristics are there or how many advantages are there, they say there are 10 or 15 like that. Then how will you mark, how will you differentiate between the student by giving them marks? The student who has written all of them, who has written 50% of them. So, what happens while evaluating answer sheets? Right in the beginning student has given 6, you give 2 marks. You come to the next paper, student has written, all the students have written more than that. So, you start just thinking that was the maximum limit. That is why the differences in marking come. Most commonly used word is what do you understand by anything. Now, this does not convey the same meaning in the mind of different students and examiners also. I just conducted one study on this and took such type of questions from actual examination papers and gave those such questions to three experts in the area. You will be surprised to know all the teachers, they differed on the scope that can be covered under that. So, such type of questions, such type of words should not be used which do not convey the right meaning to the students. Then another common question which is used, questions are write notes on law of cooling, current transformer. Now, such questions do not tell where to begin, where to end, what to include. So, anything can be written under that. So, such questions should be avoided. I just once asked in one of the studies, took feedback from the students why they are writing notes questions. They say there is a direction from the examination cells that you cover the whole syllabus. We are not able to cover with say 8 questions, 7 questions like that. So, whatsoever is left we put it under the notes and fulfill our duty. So, such words such words should not be used while framing question papers, because they are going to affect the validity and reliability of your results. There are certain guidelines. I won't go into all the guidelines, just the few which I feel are of importance. Ask only those questions where answers are naturally very brief. Say, I take very simple case, what is force? Now, what should really want from the student? Has he to give the definition only, or you want some mathematical expression, or you want him to draw sketch? What you really want from the student is not clear, and such questions have been asked. I can give you number of examples, just to quote one is here. What is heliport? Write its advantages. Now, when you say what is heliport, how much to give the answer? Then you are just giving the weightage of 2 marks. How can you evaluate these 2 aspects? When you are writing advantages, it means there are more than one. How can you cover the whole thing in just with the 2 marks? So, just take care that these 2 things go together. Then specify nature of response. Again, I take very simple example. You say want that student should write oxygen is needed for combustion, but when you ask such a question, what is oxygen needed for, he will write breathing. He is right. So, instead, if you really want that the answer should be combustion, then question should be like this: which of the gases in the atmosphere is essential for combustion? Another poor item of this kind: at what temperature does water boil? Here also the answers can be different. So, be clear in writing the questions that at what temperature does water boil, give answer in Fahrenheit at sea level. So, we generally, when we ask examiners why this type of questions are written, they say students knows it. So, that is not the thing. The paper should be having the wording of the questions in the paper should be accurate. Now, the another point is while setting question paper is ensure reliability of test questions. That can be ensured if, as I have mentioned earlier, structure your questions indicating format and marking. Say if the question is of 10 marks and you give 2-3 parts. I have seen in number of cases 10 marks are given one go and there are 3 parts in the questions. Now, what will be the split? You said explain this and this and this. Now, how will you split those things? That type of marking scheme should come right in the question paper, so that student knows what he is writing, how much he can expect marks in that area. Then, to ensure validity, no choice of questions be allowed. However, internal choice can be given. I have seen in most of the states, most of the examinations, external choice is very popular, but that reduces the validity. That is why the first thing which I mentioned, that in the definition of the validity, that one student who has learnt only 70% of the syllabus and the another student who has learnt 100% of the syllabus, if you have the external choice, you cannot differentiate the performance of the two. They may take equal marks. So, avoid external choice, because moment external choice comes in, validity of your results goes down. Internal choice, I would say this should be very frequent, maybe in the tune of 50% also. But internal choice, when you give, it should be not only from the same chapter, the difficulty level of the 2 questions should also be the same. Say one question you say understanding, and then you say or, and then you give them the higher level question, maybe evaluation like that. This is not internal choice. Internal choice technically is same chapter and same difficulty level. So, understanding or understanding. Take care of this thing when you frame questions. Then decide on length of the test. How much should be the length of the test? How many students should be able to complete the paper in the stipulated time? We say 90%. I would say rather it should be, we should target for 100%. Of course, if the student does not know, it is a different story, but if the student knows, I have seen in number of times students coming out of the examination hall and they are saying we were knowing the things, but we are not able to do. Now, here framing of question plays a very important role. When we say discuss this thing, what do you understand by this thing, write notes on this thing. Now, these type of questions does not give student the right direction how much they are to write. So, at times they spend more time which is not required exactly there, and they are not able to complete the paper in the given time. Edit and select items questions. This again is very important. What we mean by editing? What for we should go for editing of the question paper? Editing means you should be clear that you have not used any ambiguous word in the question paper. Vocabulary is not too high, because if the vocabulary of the question is high, say I am going for testing of content in applied physics or say software engineering, something like that. If the wording of framing of question is of high level and student is not able to decipher the meaning of what you really want, he knows the answer, but because of the difficulty level he is not able to answer the question. So, point is you have to edit for such things also, that the wording is not that tough, not ambiguous. Another thing, we said your paper should be according with the blueprint which you have prepared. Now, here you have to check whether your paper, say if you are thinking in mind that your objective is understanding level or remembering level, is the question of that level there? So, for checking its relation with the blueprint, the wording used for framing the questions. So, all these aspects are to be checked in while editing the paper. Now, another question in editing is who should do the editing? Now, this is very tough thing. If the paper setter himself or herself check it, naturally we are biased for that thing. And if I give it to somebody else, then the question of confidentiality comes in. The via media can be that you set the paper and keep it for some time, and then say after a week or so you again go through the paper and check for such type of editing aspects. After that you are to see level of difficulty of the test paper. Use your own judgment for selecting a proper mix of questions which have different levels of difficulty for the students. Say you take any chapter, maybe software requirement specifications. Now, you see within that there will be some questions, some derivations which are very difficult. There are some which are not that difficult, but the level remains understanding only. Say in another chapter again some mix of things is there. So, when you finally set the question paper, it should not come like that you take all difficult things from the understanding level, all difficult things from the application level. It should not be there. Make a proper mix of it. At some time point some difficult derivation, at another point some easy derivation. So, make proper mix. Then group items questions. This will be required when you are taking multiple choice questions also, you are including short answer, filling the blank and all like that. It should not appear in the paper that 2 questions multiple choice, 3 questions essay and then 2 multiple choice like that. Group the questions in different sections. Sequence questions from easy to difficult. Why should we sequence the questions? Why? You see, when we want valid and reliable results, we have to take care of student also. If you give difficult questions right in the beginning, what will happen? Student doesn't know, morale goes down, he knows the answer and he forgets it. So, we have to psychologically help the student to keep his morale high for appearing, because testing is such a thing, everybody has anxiety, fear and everything. So, if the questions are just coming from easy to difficult right in the beginning, he feels, oh, it's good. So, sequence questions like that, it is psychologically required. And lastly, but very important thing is prepare instructions for the test. For that matter, first of all, write general directions at the beginning of the test. How many questions are there, how many parts are there, how many they have to attempt, what is the weightage and everything. Then phrase directions, when you are making directions, phrase them in a way that the lowest ability students, I just talked that the framing of questions should be like that it is of their vocabulary level. Same thing is true for the directions also. They should also be in a written in a very simple language. Tell students where and how to record their answers. If there are multiple choice questions, true false questions, completion type items, then such type of directions are also required. So, this was all about setting question papers. Thanks. And I just conclude that in this session we have gone into evaluation, the related terms, assessment, which is by most people used interchangeably with evaluation. Of course, these two concepts, assessment, test, measurement, evaluation, they differ, and evaluation is the most comprehensive term. Then we went into the formative evaluation for during instruction, and summative evaluation for grading and certifying purposes. Interpretation of scores can be in terms of the norm reference test and criterion reference test. Norm reference test is for making comparisons, criterion reference test is for the absolute performance of the student. Here the steps which I have given, they relate to the norm reference testing and not to the criterion reference testing. Then we took reliability and validity, consistency in marking, that is inter-rater and intra-rater marking variabilities should not be there. They can be best taken care of if we have some marking scheme separately, or we include right in the paper itself when we said that indicate while we were going for the essay questions, indicate the marking scheme there itself. Lastly, the steps for setting valid and reliable question papers. For that matter, I would say take care. First of all, prepare the blueprint, frame your questions in accordance with the weightages which you have given in the blueprint. While writing items, questions, essay questions or short answer questions, take care of the guidelines for writing such questions. Do not use ambiguous words in the paper, in the designing of the questions. And lastly, give the directions also in the question papers. So, with that I thank you. If you have any doubts, you can read the things again. I will like that you, as a practice, you prepare one table of specification and design the question paper keeping these things in view. Thanks.